offline work. There are, I can remember looking at old research papers of things that are run on DECVAX computers, and they talk about the number of hours to render these really trivial scenes, just a few boxes and maybe a sphere sitting there, and the idea of rendering like complete worlds with it was was fantasy at the time. But it did address some of those problems for the first time with reflection and refraction, and it also much more elegantly solved shadows, which all of this stuff talking about surface interactions and finding out what you hit with the light, that kind of dodges one of the really hard problems, which is saying that, well, the light obviously doesn't reach through things. If you transform something up here and you transform another surface down here and the light's up here, this should be in shadow because it's blocked by this, but that turns out to not be a particularly trivial thing to resolve. It's basically the same problem of how you view something from your point of view, but viewed from the light's point of view. And that can mean that, well, if every light in your scene has to do similar rendering process to what your view does, possibly harder because they're omnidirectional lights in many different cases, and it's just a tough problem. And as with so many things, there's a lot of wonderful research in the 70s and 80s going through about how you do shadows effectively with these different analytic solutions. In the end, we had a brief period where stencil volumes were an effective way to do things, but now it's essentially all shadow buffers, where we really do take every light, render an image from their scene, and use that to back project onto there to figure things out. But that was one thing that ray tracing had an elegant solution for. Again, if you're already 1,000 times slower, who cares if you're another factor of 2 or 3 slower? For every point you hit, you go ahead and say, I've got my light up here, I'll trace to the light or to however many lights I've got, and if there's something that blocks it, then that's going to be shadowed and I can take it out. So ray tracing always